Chapter 27:15. Lan Kaiqing and Lan Yongtai didn't say anything when they saw this. In fact, they didn't know how to face the family's situation. They couldn't understand why Bewitching and Mo Yunjue both broke through, but the young master didn't. According to common sense, this didn't make sense at all. Everyone has already prepared the conferring ceremony for you, but you haven't even broken through to the Purple Realm. How will this end? He remembered that before Lan Qingyan entered the Divine Ice Pond, she still vowed that she would definitely break through to the Purple Realm. Lan Qingyan closed her eyes tightly. She didn't have the courage to open her eyes. Her heart was too scared. Seeing that Lan Qingyan still didn't move, Lan Jingquang's anger could no longer be contained. He immediately walked into the pond. This time, he wanted to let Lan Qingyan know the price of failure. Lan Jingquang's words rang in Lan Qingyan's ears and touched her heart. She kept shouting in her heart, "Break through! Must break through!" If she couldn't break through, then she wouldn't be able to face the embarrassing situation. Just as Lan Jingquang was about to walk in front of Lan Qingyan, suddenly, an aura burst out from Lan Qingyan's body. It was also this aura that stopped Lan Jingquang's outstretched hand. Lan Kaiqing and the others, who originally had ugly expressions, suddenly burst out with joy. The young master was about to break through. That's great. The young master is about to break through. Lan Kaiqing said joyfully. The heavens really don't disappoint those who work hard. Although it's at the last moment, it still gave us a big surprise. Lan Yongtai's face was full of smiles. He no longer had to worry about not being able to face his clansmen. The anger on Lan Jingquang's face gradually dissipated. After he felt that Lan Qingyan was about to break through to the Purple Realm, his expression also eased a little. Fortunately, Lan Qingyan didn't drag him down this time. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had just returned to their residence when they felt the aura of a breakthrough to the Purple Realm. The three couldn't help but look at each other. This wasn't good news, but it wasn't beyond their expectations. Looks like Lan Qingyan has broken through, Mo Yunjue said slowly. Lan Qingyan's luck is not bad. Previously, she had been hiding and didn't dare to come out, but at this final juncture, she still broke through to the Purple Realm. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She spoke as if she was talking about a stranger. Wife, there is a big gap between the 9th level of the Blue Realm and the Purple Realm. Now that Lan Qingyan has broken through to the 1st level of the Purple Realm, it will not be easy for you to defeat her. Bewitching frowned slightly. He understood Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. The latter wanted to prove to everyone that she was not inferior to Lan Qingyan. She definitely wanted to defeat Lan Qingyan. But now that Lan Qingyan had broken through to the Purple Realm, it would not be so easy for Bailey Hongzhuang to deal with her. I will do my best, Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly. In this world, it was impossible for everything to go as she wished. However, even if Lan Qingyan had broken through to the Purple Realm, it did not mean that she had no chance. She had never been a person who gave up easily. Hearing this, Bewitching didn't say anything more. No matter what Bailey Hongzhuang did, he would always support her. Father and mother should have already reached Blue Sun City. We have to find an opportunity to contact them. Chapter 27:16. After Lan Qingyan successfully broke through to the Purple Realm, she opened her eyes again. There was no longer any fear on her face. On the contrary, she was full of confidence. Father, I broke through, Lan Qingyan said with a smile. Lan Jingquang nodded. His face was once again filled with a loving smile, as if the person who was bristling with anger before was not him. Let's go back first. Everyone is waiting for you. Lan Kaiqing and the others were also full of joy as they followed Lan Jingquang out of the divine pond of ice. The worst situation did not happen, so they could rest assured. What? The ceremony to appoint the house head is already prepared? Lan Qingyan could not help but widen her eyes when she heard the news. She did not know that Lan Jingquang and the others would be so fast. She had not even come out of the divine pond of ice and snow, but everything was already prepared. Lan Jingquang nodded. The house head has also agreed. As long as you break through to the Purple Realm, you can inherit the position of house head. This is the best opportunity. There cannot be any more mistakes. It was only at this moment that Lan Qingyan understood why Lan Jingquang was so angry before. She felt a little scared and relieved. Fortunately, she had successfully broken through at the last moment. Otherwise, she would not be able to face such a scene. Thinking of this, Lan Qingyan's face could not help but reveal a joyful smile. Father, I am already at the first level of the Purple Realm. What can go wrong? That's right. The ceremony will be held the day after tomorrow. You should prepare well. 2 days later, you will be the true house head of the Lan family. Lan Jingquang patted Lan Qingyan's shoulder and laughed heartily. After so many years, this was the first time he had laughed so happily. Yu Manlin's face was also full of joy. She held Lan Qingyan's hand and said, Qingyan, you really did not disappoint us. You have already reached the first level of the Purple Realm at such a young age. In the entire Xingxian continent, there are not many young people who can be compared to you. Lan Qingyan was in a very good mood at this moment. Therefore, she was also full of smiles towards Yu Manlan. Mother, after I become the house head, you will not have to worry in the future. Of course, Mother is the luckiest thing to have given birth to such a precious daughter. Bailey Hongzhuang sent off the Lan family clansmen, who came to deliver the news. She turned to look at Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue behind her. I didn't expect Lan Jingquang and the others to be so impatient. They've already prepared the ceremony and even invited us to attend. How interesting. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Her eyes were filled with mockery. No wonder Lan Jingquang's expression was so ugly. She finally understood the reason. Looks like your appearance has really made Lan Jingquang fearful. So he can't wait for Lan Qingyan to sit on the patriarch's seat. Mo Yunjue sighed. Di Beichen rubbed his chin with his right hand. His eyes were deep and wise. Logically speaking, Lan Jingquang should want us to leave as soon as possible. He actually invited us to watch the ceremony. This is really strange. Could it be that Lan Qingyan wants to be arrogant in front of Master? So she did this on purpose? Xiaohe asked suspiciously. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. It shouldn't be. Lan Qingyan's words carry less weight than Lan Jingquang's. This is most likely Lan Jingquang's decision. Chapter 27:17. The night gradually deepened, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. Bailey Hongzhuang walked in the Lan family's garden. She had to admit that the Lan family's territory was not small. This garden was comparable to the imperial garden of the imperial family. Di Beichen had already left the Lan family to meet up with Si Tuyen and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang did not follow. Now that many people in the Lan family were paying attention to her, if she went out and was discovered, it would be troublesome. It would be better to stay here and attract more attention. Di Beichen would be back soon. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was strolling, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are really in the mood to stroll in the garden here. Could it be that you have not broken through to the Purple Realm and have given up on yourself because of the blow? Lan Qingyan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with ridicule. Her gorgeous face was currently surrounded by a confident and proud radiance, like a peacock spreading its tail. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lan Qingyan indifferently and said with a smile, compared to this morning when you were trembling in fear and didn't dare to see anyone, your current appearance is really different. When these words came out, Lan Qingyan's expression couldn't help but change a little. This morning's scene was the last thing she wanted to talk about. I think you are thinking too much. I was just about to break through, so I stayed in the pool and didn't come out. Lan Qingyan quibbled. She wouldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang use this as an excuse to laugh at her. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Since you are willing to deceive yourself, why should I expose you? Whatever you say, I'll believe it. Lan Qingyan clearly had the upper hand in this exchange, but after listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lan Qingyan felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was looking down on her from the bottom of her heart. This kind of feeling made her extremely unhappy. She clearly had the upper hand now. She had broken through to the Purple Realm. So why was Bailey Hongzhuang still able to put on a nonchalant expression in front of her? Bailey Hongzhuang, don't think that you can pose a threat to me with that face of yours. The real Lan Yishuan is already dead, and I am the true master of the Lan family. No matter what schemes and ideas you have, they are all useless here. After breaking through to the Purple Realm, Lan Qingyan's position in the Lan family was no longer the same as before. The influence caused by the Battle of Zhuolu had completely dissipated with this incident. Lan Qingyan no longer had to be afraid in front of Lan Jingquang. This was because she was going to become the Lan family's patriarch in another 2 days. Not only would she be Lan Jingquang's daughter, but she would be the master of the Lan family. She immediately asked about this matter that she couldn't understand, but the answer she received surprised her and made her feel very amused. Bailey Hongzhuang could be Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's daughter, Lan Yixuan? This was simply a fantasy story. For so many years, they had never considered the possibility that Lan Yixuan was still alive. Now, such a strange woman had appeared out of nowhere and was seen as a threat by Lan Jingquang and the others. It was simply too laughable. If Lan Yixuan was still alive, she would have come to their Lan family long ago. Why would she wait until now? In her opinion, this was simply a coincidence. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Young Master Lan, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Chapter 27:18. That's what you think. I didn't say anything. However, after listening to your words, I'm curious. Did you guys do something shameful to Lan Yixuan? Otherwise, why would you guys be so nervous when she's mentioned? Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face rippled with an indifferent smile as she looked at Lan Qingyan with ridicule. The latter's thinking was still too simple. If it was really a coincidence, why would Lan Jingquang and the elders of the Lan family be so frightened? However, it was not bad for Lan Qingyan to know about it earlier. The more confident she was, the more painful the slap in her face would be when the real thing happened. What can we do to Lan Yixuan? It's just that she was unlucky and died early. If you think that you can get any benefits from my Lan family, just by relying on your slightly similar appearance, then you're really dreaming. I didn't know that I could get benefits from the Lan family with this face. If there's a chance, I'll give it a try. Lan Qingyan furrowed her brows. No matter what she said, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was neither painful nor itchy, making her feel extremely unhappy. Bailey Hongzhuang really didn't care? Or was all this nonchalance just an act? Lan Qingyan couldn't see through it. In fact, when she suddenly found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had a face that was very similar to Lan Yixuan, she was at a loss. She felt that things were a little strange. But now, after probing, she didn't get any information at all. She didn't understand what Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking. I specially invited you to watch the ceremony of me becoming the patriarch to let you understand the difference between our identities. From now on, I'm the patriarch of the Lan family, and you're just the young palace master of Limitless Palace. Before you become the true palace master of Limitless Palace, our identities will be different. Moreover, no one can say for sure when you'll be chased out of Limitless Palace. Lan Qingyan's words were extremely sharp and unkind. Towards Bailey Hongzhuang, she already hated her to the extreme. She wouldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang have the chance to become the real palace master of Limitless Palace and go against her in the future. A man like Bewitching shouldn't be tainted by Bailey Hongzhuang. Fortunately, her father had already planned everything. Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to return to Limitless Palace alive. Thank you for your concern, young Master Lan. However, before you become the real patriarch of the Lan family, you should worry about yourself first. In this world, there's a situation called a bolt from the blue. Her voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang ignored Lan Qingyan and turned to walk in the direction of her residence. Seeing this, Lan Qingyan bit her lip with her pearly white teeth. Her eyes were also filled with displeasure. Let's see how I become the patriarch of the Lan family. I'll let you be proud for now. Soon, you'll have to beg for mercy in front of me. Lan Qingyan's eyes flashed with a vicious light. She was about to be conferred a title soon. At this time, Lan Jingquang specially reminded her not to cause any more trouble to avoid unwanted influence. Otherwise, she would have already taught Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. The current Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer her opponent. Chapter 27:19. The sudden appearance of the black figure caused Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes to flash with a ruthless glint. The energy in her body surged as she prepared to attack at any moment. However, after seeing who it was, Bailey Hongzhuang withdrew her attack. Head Elder. Lan Borong's face rippled with a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction didn't escape his eyes. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang also knew that there was a certain amount of danger in the Lan family, so she was on guard everywhere. However, her reaction speed still made him gasp in surprise. Only someone who had faced danger before could take such a defensive stance in such a short time. Moreover, it was so natural when it turned invisible. Young Palace Master Bailey, I'm sorry to disturb you so late. Head Elder is too polite. I was just strolling in the garden, so what's there to disturb about? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile without much expression on her face. She had already guessed Head Elder's purpose in coming here. Young Palace Master Bailey is also a straightforward person. I'm only here to pass on a message. House Master wishes to invite you for a chat. Would young Palace Master Bailey do me the honor? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was not surprised at all. Lan Hongtai had waited for so long before inviting her to have a chat. This was already tolerable. How could I not honor House Master's invitation? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. From her father's words, she already knew that Lan Hongtai had always treated them extremely well. At that time, Lan Hongtai was in seclusion to break through to a higher realm, so he had no idea what had happened. Lan Yunxiao had always been confident that if Lan Hongtai knew about this, he would definitely stand on his side. However, Lan Jingquang had chosen the best time to strike, so they didn't even have a chance to counterattack. This could be seen from Lan Hongtai's refusal to hand over the position of House Master to Lan Jingquang. As for Bailey Hongzhuang, she didn't have much feelings for this grandfather she had only met once. If Lan Hongtai really cared about Lan Yunxiao, then even if it was too late, he could still choose to punish Lan Jingquang. But in reality, Lan Jingquang hadn't lived so carefreely for so many years. What was the difference between giving the position of clan head to Lan Qingyan and Lan Jingquang? Under the guidance of Lan Borong, Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the residence of the patriarch. Knock knock. Lan Borong knocked on the door, and then Lan Hongtai's deep and honest voice came from outside. Please come in. Young Palace Master Bailey Hongzhuang, you can go in. I won't go in. Lan Borong smiled and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head, opened the door and walked in. As soon as she entered the house, a black figure appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's line of sight. Lan Hongtai stood tall and straight. His back was as straight as a spear, and his face was resolute. Only the few strands of white hair on his temples added to his vicissitudes of life. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Lan Hongtai's face also showed a kind smile. Young Palace Master Bailey, please sit. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the table and saw that tea was already prepared. Clearly Lan Hongtai knew she would come. She didn't stand on ceremony and directly sat down. Seeing this, Lan Hongtai's smile deepened. At the same time, he sat across from Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 2720. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Family head's invitation isn't a dragon's lair or a tiger's den. What do I have to be afraid of? She might have needed to be on guard against Lan Jingquang and the others, but she didn't need to be on guard against Lan Hongtai. Moreover, even if she was in a dangerous situation, it would not be easy to take her down. Lan Hongtai sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and felt that her every frown and smile was extremely similar to Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing. Just looking at her made him feel as if he was seeing his son and daughter-in-law again. It comforted him. However, Lan Hongtai didn't dwell on this feeling. He said, I invited young Palace Master Bailey here so late at night because this old man has a few questions to ask. I hope you can answer them. Now that his cultivation in the divine pond of ice was over, Lan Hongtai didn't want to keep guessing. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile didn't change. Family head Lan, please ask away. In the next moment, Lan Hongtai's pitch-black eyes flashed with a sharp light. The kind and benevolent smile on his face disappeared and was replaced by an indescribable seriousness and sternness. Are you Lan Yishuan or not? Lan Hongtai didn't ask tactfully and went straight to the point. His gaze was fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. He didn't want to miss the slightest change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, even if he was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yixuan. In fact, other than the similarity in appearance, he couldn't find any other clues that could link Bailey Hongzhuang to Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yixuan. If Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yixuan, that would naturally be the best. But if Bailey Hongzhuang was not Lan Yixuan, then her purpose would have to be carefully considered. After all, he wouldn't allow anyone to destroy the Lan family's ancestral property. Feeling the sudden burst of momentum from Lan Hongtai's body, Bailey Hongzhuang was unmoved. She raised her head, her clear eyes looking straight into Lan Hongtai's eyes, not afraid at all. So what if I am? So what if I'm not? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was mild with a faint smile on her lips. She seemed to think that Lan Hongtai's question was ridiculous. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's fearless eyes, Lan Hongtai stared at her for a long time, and the atmosphere became stiff in an instant. After a moment, Lan Hongtai withdrew his gaze and slowly said, "I understand." His heart was filled with shock and amazement. He knew very well how sharp his gaze was. Bailey Hongzhuang was so young, but she was able to look him in the eye without showing any signs of weakness. This wasn't something an ordinary young person could do. As the head of the Lan family, his aura had been formed over the years. Even Lan Qingyan couldn't speak under his burning gaze. But from beginning to end, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was so calm that it made him feel guilty. He understood now. He no longer doubted Bailey Hongzhuang, because he was certain that Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yixuan. Lan Yixuan had never owed the Lan family anything. Only the Lan family owed her. Therefore, she didn't feel guilty at all. This made Lan Hongtai's heart tremble even more. Chapter 27-21. 19 years, a whole 19 years. He had been searching for traces of Lan Yunxiao and the others for so many years, but all the information he received was for naught. He never thought that he would be able to see Lan Yixuan again, when he was about to be disappointed. Not only was she not dead, she had grown up to be so beautiful, and her achievements were no less than her parents. This was something he never dared to imagine. Now that he knew the truth, he couldn't help but feel grateful to the heavens. The heavens had treated him well. At least, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's only daughter was still alive. She was powerful and had a noble status. Even without the Lan family's help, her outstanding growth was still amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the uncontrollable emotions on Lan Hongtai's face. It was obvious that he had figured everything out. She didn't mind letting him know in advance, because the entire Blue Sun City would know in 2 days. After a while, Lan Hongtai took a sip of tea, and finally managed to suppress the excitement in his heart. Are they still alive? When he asked this question, Lan Hongtai's aura was much weaker. Even his gaze was somewhat evasive, not daring to meet Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Clearly, he was afraid of hearing the answer he didn't want to hear. The lack of news wasn't the worst news for him, because he still had a trace of hope in his heart. Perhaps they were still alive. Perhaps they resented his inaction back then, so they were unwilling to come back to see him all these years. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the weathered old man with complicated feelings. Was Lan Hongtai wrong? What happened back then wasn't what he wanted to see, but she couldn't forgive Lan Hongtai just like that. Perhaps others didn't have the ability, but as the Lan family's patriarch, Lan Hongtai could have done it even if he would have faced some resistance in the family. But he didn't. Bailey Hongzhuang knew that she wasn't a magnanimous person. She didn't need to pretend to be magnanimous to forgive those who had hurt them. Hurt was hurt. No matter how dignified the reason was, it was still hurt. From the moment Lan Hongtai chose to let the Lan family prosper, their family had already been abandoned by Lan Hongtai. Thus, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't think any of this was meaningful. What do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang asked in return. She didn't want to say more. She only cared about Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's opinions on how to treat Lan Hongtai. She didn't have any feelings for a grandfather she didn't have any impression of. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's question, Lan Hongtai was stunned at first, and then his body could not help but tremble. He couldn't help but clench his fists under his sleeves, unable to control his emotions. If they're still alive, they'll definitely come see me. Lan Hongtai's voice was low and hoarse, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. and lost his biggest spiritual pillar. He knew his son very well. If Lan Yunxiao was still alive, he would definitely come back for him. Moreover, Lan Jingquang had gone too far. As long as he was still alive, he would definitely come back for revenge. Chapter 27-22. It was just that he didn't want to admit it. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang clearly saw the tears in the corners of Lan Hongtai's eyes. It seemed that he was certain of the result, so tears flowed down his old face. With Lan Hongtai's status, it was beyond Bailey Hongzhuang's expectations that he would cry like this. She was slightly touched, but it didn't mean much. I owe them too much in this lifetime, and I can't repay them in this lifetime. Fortunately, you're still alive. Don't worry, I won't let you get hurt in the future. Lan Hongtai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. No matter what, at least Bailey Hongzhuang was still alive. Bailey Hongzhuang was the continuation of Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's lives. She was the only thing that could comfort him in his despair. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a self-mocking smile. So what if I'm alive? Lan Qingyan and I have been on opposite sides since the beginning. Now Lan Qingyan is about to become the Lan family's head. How will you protect me? Hearing this, Lan Hongtai's expression changed. This was truly an ill-fated relationship. Back then, Lan Yixuan was only a few months old, but Lan Jingquang and his family had already been ruthless to her. Now Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Qingyan were fated enemies. They had been targeting each other since the Battle of Zhuolu. At this moment, he also understood that Bailey Hongzhuang, who knew the truth, had already regarded Lan Qingyan and her family as enemies. That was why everything had happened today. Bailey Hongzhuang did not pay attention to Lan Hongtai. For Lan Hongtai, this was an extremely difficult thing to do. She didn't want to make things difficult for Lan Hongtai, but Lan Qingyan and her family had to pay a painful price for their actions. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and prepared to leave. She had already said what she needed to say, so there was no point in staying. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, a sound came from behind her. Plop! Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but turn around, only to see the Lan family head, who had always been high and mighty, suddenly kneel down. This scene was far beyond Bailey Hongzhuang's imagination and gave her a huge shock. Lan family head, what are you doing? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly went to Lan Hongtai's side and stretched out her hands to help him up. However, Lan Hongtai stubbornly knelt on the ground and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with tears in his eyes. Yixuan, it's all Grandpa's fault. It's Grandpa who didn't protect you well. That's why you were treated like that since you were young. I can understand that you don't want to forgive me. This is my fault. Right now there's nothing I can do for you. I only have this old life. If you want the Lan family, Grandpa will try his best to do it even if it means risking everything. This is what Grandpa owes you. Lan Hongtai's eyes were serious and full of affection. He owed Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing, but he owed Lan Yixuan the most. Faced with Bailey Hongzhuang's cold attitude and self-mockery, he only felt extremely uncomfortable. It was a kind of disappointment that came from his bones, but it was also something he didn't want to see the most. Back then, he had already made a mistake. Right now, he wasn't willing to make the same mistake again. For the entire Lan family, he had already sacrificed enough. Right now, he didn't want to care about anything else. He only wanted to do what he wanted to do. Chapter 27-23. Lan family head, please get up first. I really can't bear to see you like this. Bailey Hongzhuang supported Lan Hongtai, her calm face filled with panic and astonishment. You can bear it. Lan Hongtai waved his hand. As your grandfather, I can't protect you. Compared to the pain you've suffered in the past, my kneeling is nothing. Lan Hongtai's determined face was filled with stubbornness. He knelt there like a boulder, motionless. He was repenting his mistakes, his debt, and his heartache. He didn't have the qualifications to beg Bailey Hongzhuang for forgiveness. The only thing he could do was repent to make Bailey Hongzhuang feel better. Hearing Lan Hongtai's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was greatly touched. She had never thought that such a high and mighty person would actually kneel down at this moment and abandon all his self-esteem and pride. He only said such words to her as a grandfather who felt guilty in his heart. At this moment, she felt that she couldn't continue to hate him. An old man like this must have been tormenting his heart for so many years. In fact, 19 years of torment. Lan Hongtai's suffering wasn't any less than theirs. "Grandfather, please get up." Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in her heart and slowly said. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lan Hongtai, who was immersed in his repentance, couldn't help but tremble. His eyes were slightly dazed as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. What did you just call me?" "Grandfather." Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again. She thought it would be a difficult thing to say, but at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that it was very natural to say it. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. She hated Lan Jingquang and the Yu family the most. The biggest crime was never Lan Hongtai's. Compared to the viciousness of Lan Jingquang and the others, this old man's 20 years of repentance and pain was more than enough. Lan Hongtai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief, but his heart was full of surprise. "You call me Grandpa, you're willing to acknowledge me?" He didn't dare to beg Bailey Hongzhuang for forgiveness, but that didn't mean that he didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to forgive him. The former's forgiveness was his greatest wish. "You are my grandfather to begin with. Whether I acknowledge you or not, this will not change." A smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. Compared to her previous cold smile, her smile at this moment was a bit more sincere. "Get up quickly. If this continues, my granddaughter's life will be shortened." Hearing that, Lan Hongtai listened to Bailey Hongzhuang and stood up, then sat down again. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with bright eyes. Even though he had received a positive answer, he was still worried that he was dreaming. "Yixuan, I didn't dare to think that you would still acknowledge me as your grandfather." "Thank you." Lan Hongtai's hands couldn't help but tremble. He covered Bailey Hongzhuang's hands with his own. His bloodshot eyes showed how emotional he was. "I know that everything that happened back then wasn't what you wanted to see." Bailey Hongzhuang spoke slowly, no longer as cold as before. There were many things about the Lan family that made her feel disappointed, but the old man in front of her made her feel a trace of warmth. Chapter 27-24. In the following conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Hongtai both let down their guard and chatted happily. Lan Hongtai was very curious about Bailey Hongzhuang's experiences these past few years, and his words were filled with deep concern. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say much about this, and only told Lan Hongtai to tell her slowly in the future. It was already late at night, and Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't suitable to stay here for long. Thus, after chatting for a while, she returned to her residence. After obtaining Bailey Hongzhuang's forgiveness, Lan Hongtai was much happier. It was as if he could finally put down the stone that had been pressing down on his heart for so many years. Lan Borong sent Bailey Hongzhuang all the way back to her residence. Naturally, this matter couldn't be hidden from the observant eyes of others. "Master Kuang, according to the news from our people, House Head invited Bailey Hongzhuang for a chat tonight." Bailey Hongzhuang stayed in her room for a long time before coming out. Lan Kaiching frowned. They had long guessed that Lan Hongtai wouldn't be able to restrain himself from contacting Bailey Hongzhuang. But now that it really happened, it was a troublesome matter for them. "Do you know what they talked about?" Lan Jingquang asked with a gloomy face. Lan Kaiching shook his head, his expression filled with helplessness. "First Elder has been guarding outside House Head's room the entire time. Our people couldn't approach, so we don't know what they talked about." "That old fox. Now that things have reached this stage, could it be that he still has other ideas?" Lan Jingquang couldn't hide his anger. He knew that the old man had been thinking about Lan Yunxiao. Even if he only saw Bailey Hongzhuang's similar face, it would make the old man feel as if he had seen hope. "It's almost time for the young master's conferring ceremony. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any problems. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang says she's Lan Yixuan, it's meaningless." Third Elder Lan Yongtai couldn't help but look at Lan Jingquang and Lan Kaiching. He couldn't understand why the patriarch was looking for Bailey Hongzhuang at this time. Based on how much House Head cares about Lan Yunxiao, if Bailey Hongzhuang is really Lan Yixuan, perhaps House Head will hand the Lan family to Lan Yixuan at all costs. Lan Kaiching frowned. The memory of Lan Hongtai's rage, when he found out the truth, was still vivid in his mind. If it weren't for the elders working together to stop him, Lan Hongtai would have killed Lan Jingquang. For so many years, no matter what Lan Jingquang and Lan Qingyan did, he had never seen a genuine smile on Lan Hongtai's face. From this, it could be seen how important Lan Yunxiao's family was to Lan Hongtai. The current Lan family is no longer the Lan family of the past. It's impossible for that old fellow to reverse all of this with his own strength. Lan Jing flicked his sleeves, his face unable to hide his anger. Send someone to watch Bailey Hongzhuang and the head's every move for the next 2 days. If there's even the slightest thing wrong, immediately report it to me. I won't give Lan Yunxiao a chance to make a comeback. He can only be trampled under my feet for the rest of his life. Lan Kaiqing and Lan Yongtai were startled by Lan Jingquang's rage. Even after so many years, Lan Jingquang's hatred for Lan Yunxiao hadn't dissipated. It looks like I have to have you Xiqing speed up. Bailey Hongzhuang will be a disaster if she continues to stay. Lan Jingquang's eyes were malicious and malicious. He wanted to strangle all possibilities in the cradle. Chapter 27-25. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her residence, Bewitching and Mo Yunjue welcomed her with concern. Wife, where did you go? Bewitching grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and asked, his deep, dark eyes filled with worry and concern. Previously, when he went out to make contact, Hongzhuang went to the garden to attract more attention. He didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to find Hongzhuang's figure when he came back, which made him very worried. Mo Yunjue didn't say anything, but the concern on his face said it all. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I'm fine. I just went to see Househead. It was my negligence that I didn't inform you. Bewitching and Mo Yunjue couldn't help but look at each other, their expressions becoming more complicated. They didn't know what Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about Lan Hongtai's identity, so it wasn't convenient for them to ask. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly and said, after I talked with the head of the family, many misunderstandings have been resolved. Misunderstandings have been resolved? Bewitching muttered to himself, pondering over the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. What happened back then wasn't what Househead wanted. He has always been thinking about us. Actually, after this misunderstanding was resolved, I feel much more relaxed. Thinking about it, father and mother probably never resented Househead. Facing a grandfather who was willing to put down his pride in front of his family, they really couldn't resent him. Therefore, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had expressed their resentment towards Lan Jingquang, Yu Manlan, and Yu Xiqing, but they had never mentioned Lan Hongtai. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's carefree words, Bewitching's handsome face rippled with a happy smile. It's good that the misunderstanding has been resolved. He didn't want to see Bailey Hongzhuang worried about this matter. Although he didn't know what she had talked about with the head of the family, he could tell from Bailey Hongzhuang's expression that the former really understood. That feeling of sudden enlightenment was completely different from before, and this would allow them to move more smoothly during the conferring ceremony 2 days later. I heard that Lan Qingyan went to the garden to look for you? Mo Yunjue slowly spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She came to show off to me that she had broken through to the Purple Realm. You know her personality. As soon as this was said, Bewitching and Mo Yunjue both nodded in understanding. Lan Qingyan's flamboyant personality had long been understood by them during this period of time. Right now, your situation in the Lan family is rather dangerous. You have to be more careful when you go out. There might be some deliberate accidents at any time, Bewitching said. I'm afraid that your meeting with Househead today won't be hidden from Lan Jingquang and the others. Their actions might also speed up. In my opinion, it's best if you don't go out for the next 2 days, Mo Yunjue quickly added. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang understood their concern. In reality, she only planned to cultivate in seclusion for the next 2 days. All right, Beichen, did you see my parents tonight? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Until now, she still didn't know if her parents had successfully reached Blue Sun City. I already saw them. Right now, everyone is waiting for the conferring ceremony to begin. Chapter 27-26. After that, Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her room and began to cultivate. Now that she had prepared everything, she didn't need to worry too much. With the remaining time, she might as well try her best to break through to the Purple Realm. Although there was still some distance before she could break through to the Purple Realm, she was clear that it wasn't far. It wouldn't be long before she could break through to the Purple Realm. If she could break through to the Purple Realm before the conferring ceremony, that would be the best. After Lan Jingquang and the others found out about Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Hongtai's secret conversation, they couldn't hold themselves back anymore. No one knew what they talked about, but no matter how they looked at it, it wasn't a good thing for them. Father, what should we do now? After finding out about this, Lan Qingyan's mood was extremely bad. Now she couldn't see through Bailey Hongzhuang. She felt that there was a conspiracy everywhere, but it was impossible to guard against it. Didn't you talk to Bailey Hongzhuang earlier? Did you find out anything? Lan Jingquang's face was still dark, making it impossible for others to see through his thoughts. I did find out, but Bailey Hongzhuang hid it very well. She didn't say anything and pretended that she didn't know anything. It's just that I feel that she came here with a conspiracy. Lan Qingyan's brows wrinkled slightly. She still remembered Bailey Hongzhuang's last words. In this world, there was a situation called a bolt from the blue. A bolt from the blue. Was this referring to what she was about to encounter? Perhaps this was just Bailey Hongzhuang casually cursing. But for some reason, Lan Qingyan felt that when Bailey Hongzhuang said this sentence, she was extremely confident. Your grandaunt has already prepared the poison. Originally, she planned to do it after your conferring ceremony, but now it seems that it's better to do it earlier. Lan Jingquang's voice was low and cold. This matter was strange, and he felt that it could go beyond their control at any time. Only by resolving this hidden danger as soon as possible, they could truly be at ease. Hearing this, Lan Qingyan nodded her head. That would be great. She didn't want to see Bailey Hongzhuang's face at all. Once she was dead, she would have a chance to take advantage of it. However, just as Lan Jingquang and the others were about to make a move on Bailey Hongzhuang, they discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang was in seclusion. This was not good news. In this way, they didn't even have the chance to attack. From the looks of it, the Patriarch and Bailey Hongzhuang might have had a secret discussion. That's why Bailey Hongzhuang is in seclusion. Lan Kaicheng's face became ugly. Originally, it should have been a very simple matter to poison Bailey Hongzhuang in the territory of the Lan family. But now that Bailey Hongzhuang was in seclusion, they couldn't find any other way. That's not necessarily true. Maybe Bailey Hongzhuang hasn't broken through to the Purple Realm, so she's working hard to cultivate. Lan Yongtai slowly said. However, Lan Jingquang's next words caused the two elders and Lan Qingyan's face to change. The Patriarch talked to Bailey Hongzhuang and will definitely confirm Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. If Bailey Hongzhuang isn't Lan Yishuan and is an imposter, the Patriarch's anger will definitely be stronger than ours. But the Patriarch hasn't said anything, and Bailey Hongzhuang hasn't revealed any clues. This already proves one thing. Chapter 27:27. For a moment, the entire room was silent. Everyone looked at Lan Jingquang in shock, wondering if they had heard wrongly. However, when everyone thought about it carefully, they all agreed with Lan Jingquang's judgment. Previously, they had thought too simply. Bailey Hongzhuang is really Lan Yishuan. How is this possible? Lan Qingyan's face was pale as she shook her head continuously. This news was too hard to accept. Maybe the family head and Bailey Hongzhuang are talking about something else, and it's not what we think. Second elder and third elder were clearly unwilling to believe this as well. Regardless of the outcome, to prevent any undue delay, taking Bailey Hongzhuang's life is the most worry-free method. Even though that old man has ignored the family's affairs for so many years, his subordinates are still very powerful. We can't let our guard down. Lan Kaicheng and Lan Yongtai's faces were also filled with seriousness. Now that things have come to this, there was no turning back. If Lan Qingyan couldn't successfully become the master, then the next unlucky ones would be them. But Bailey Hongzhuang hasn't left the house. What should we do? If Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't want to come out, Then we'll just have to think of a way to force her out. Lan Qingyin's eyes narrowed. Her gaze was sinister and ruthless. She would never allow Bailey Hongzhuang to destroy everything that belonged to her. Bailey Hongzhuang was in the middle of closed-door cultivation when she suddenly received a piece of news. You said that the Lan family is holding a banquet? Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face was filled with surprise. Her elegant brows furrowed slightly, her expression filled with confusion. Shouldn't the Lan family be busy preparing for the coronation ceremony? Why would they suddenly think of holding a banquet? Bewitching's face darkened. In my opinion, I'm afraid things aren't that simple. Previously, we didn't hear any news at all. Now that this banquet is being held so suddenly, I'm afraid there's something fishy going on. Mo Yunjue nodded in agreement. Maybe Lan Jingquang and the others couldn't hold back and wanted to get rid of him. Bailey Hongzhuang's deep phoenix eyes flashed with a thoughtful light, and then a smile appeared on her face. I don't believe that Lan Jingquang would be able to kill me in front of so many people. As for playing dirty tricks, that will depend on whether he has the ability to do so. At the banquet, young Palace Master Bailey, young Sect Master D, young Tower Master Mo, you are all here. Welcome, welcome. When Lan Kaiqing and the others saw the arrival of Bailey Hongzhuang, and the other two, their faces revealed joyful smiles. When no one was paying attention, they couldn't help but exchange glances with a hint of smugness. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a hypocritical smile. It was obvious that both sides wanted the other to die immediately, but they had to pretend that they had a very good relationship here. Young Palace Master Bailey, this is your seat. Please take a seat. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the seat that belonged to her in front of her, and couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. She thought to herself that this was interesting. Why did you arrange for me to sit here? Bailey Hongzhuang asked the maid. Tonight's banquet is for men to sit in one row and women to sit in another, so your seat has been arranged here. The maid's answer was meticulous, and no one could find any fault with it. Chapter 27-28. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down in her seat while Bewitching and Mo Yunjue sat across from her. Master, the Lan family purposely separated you from Bewitching and the others. Xiao Hei's face was filled with displeasure. This arrangement seemed reasonable, but in reality, it was extremely preposterous. They must have learned their lesson from the previous banquet, so they purposely arranged it this way. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. Lan Jingquang and the others had clearly come prepared. She could only wait and see what they were planning. Hongzhuang has been arranged to sit alone over there. I'm afraid it's a little inappropriate. Mo Yunjue lowered his voice. Bewitching's gaze was deep and obscure. We can only take one step at a time. There shouldn't be any problems if we keep our guard up. Fortunately, Hongzhuang was a poison master herself. Aside from this, Bewitching wasn't too worried about her other methods. Mo Yunjue nodded slightly. We can only watch their performance now. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally very curious about what methods Lan Jingquang and the others would use today. But when she saw that the person arranged to sit next to her was Wuxia, she suddenly felt that it was a little funny. Was this a display of one's slight skill before an expert? Wuxia's poison skills weren't bad. If she poisoned others, they might not be able to guard against it. But if she wanted to poison her, then it would be meaningless. Wuxia clearly didn't know that Bailey Hongzhuang was Xianyi. She thought that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know her well. Her old face rippled with a somewhat fake smile. Young Palace Master Bailey, what happened last time was just a misunderstanding. I hope you won't take it to heart. Wuxia spoke slowly. Clearly, after a month, she had recovered from the previous incident. Although that incident was very embarrassing, with Lan Jingquang and the others protecting her, she didn't suffer any harm. Moreover, if she succeeded in poisoning him today, then she would really become a hero of the Lan family. If Master Yu doesn't take offense, then all the more I won't pursue the matter. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a half-smile. Wuxia looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression and felt a little displeased, but she could only suppress it. At this moment, a voice attracted everyone's attention, and the entire banquet hall instantly fell silent. Patriarch is here. Following the crowd's gaze, they saw Lan Hongtai slowly walking over, a faint smile on his determined and calm face. Lan Hongtai sat at the main table and looked at the people below with a smile. Let the banquet begin. From the moment Lan Hongtai walked into the banquet hall, Lan Jingquang and the others had been paying attention to the interaction between Lan Hongtai and Bailey Hongzhuang. However, what puzzled them was that Lan Hongtai and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't make much eye contact, as if they hadn't spoken at all. The reason for this banquet is to celebrate young master's ascension to the position of patriarch. I hope that everyone will drink to their heart's content and don't be restrained. Let's toast first, Lan Jingquang said to the crowd as he raised his wine glass. Lan Hongtai's actions could be said to have stolen the limelight from the host, directly declaring his own power and completely ignoring Lan Hongtai's existence. Lan Kaiqing and the other elders also stood up and echoed Lan Jingquang's actions. Young master, congratulations, congratulations. You're going to become patriarch at such a young age. We'll have to look up to young master in the future. Chapter 27-29. After seeing Lan Jingquang's arrogant actions, Lan Borong and the other elders who stood on the patriarch's side couldn't help but frown. Lan Qingyan was about to become the next patriarch of the Lan family. It was only right for them to be loyal to Lan Qingyan. However, judging from the current situation, Lan Jingquang and the others didn't even have a trace of respect for the old patriarch. This wasn't appropriate. On the contrary, Lan Qingyan didn't notice this at all. Instead, she was immersed in the compliments. She was so happy that she couldn't extricate herself. Master, I don't understand what Lan Qingyan is so happy about. Even if she really sits on the patriarch's seat, isn't Lan Jingquang the one controlling her from behind? Xiao He was confused. Lan Qingyan was laughing so hard that she couldn't even close her mouth. However, anyone could see that Lan Jingquang was such a person who was obsessed with power. He definitely wanted to control this power in his own hands. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. Lan Qingyan is probably immersed in Lan Jingquang's familial love right now, so she didn't think of this point. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Her face was full of indifference. Let Lan Qingyan and the others be proud for a while. Soon this big dream will be solved. I think it's good that Lan Jingquang doesn't respect the patriarch. Look at Lan Borong and the others. Although they didn't say it directly, their expressions have already explained everything, Xiao Bai said slowly. After feigning civility, Lan Qingyan shifted her attention to Bailey Hongzhuang. Her originally outstanding appearance was now even more beautiful. However, when she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, she always had a trace of evil intentions. Young Palace Master Bailey, I heard that you have been in seclusion. Could it be that you are trying to break through to the Purple Realm? Lan Qingyan smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. The teasing in her eyes couldn't be more obvious. Lan Jingquang also raised his cup and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. That's true. Young Sect Master D, Young Tower Master Mo, and Qingyan have all broken through to the Purple Realm through the Divine Pond of Ice. Only Young Palace Master Bailey is still at the Blue Realm level 9. I'm sure you're feeling terrible, right? However, Young Palace Master Bailey, you don't have to be discouraged. There is always a certain gap between people. As long as you don't compare yourself, you can still live happily. Lan Jingquang was already prepared to shed all pretense of cordiality with Bailey Hongzhuang, so his words were laced with sarcasm. It seemed like a consolation, but in reality, it was all mockery and sarcasm. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, a modest luster lingering on her pretty face. Master Quang is right. I'm a few years younger than young Master Lan. It's normal that I can't catch up to young Master Lan. Young Master Lan is so outstanding. I will definitely work hard to catch up to young Master Lan's footsteps. A faint smile could be heard in her light and pleasant voice. Compared to the deliberate mockery, this seemingly insignificant counterattack made people feel even more uncomfortable. Once these words came out, Lan Jingquang and Lan Qingyan's expressions changed. They didn't expect this Bailey Hongzhuang to be so experienced in dealing with things at such a young age. In just a few words, she attributed all the problems to age. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang not only wasn't inferior to Lan Qingyan, but was even stronger. I wonder what young Palace Master Bailey thinks about Qing Yan becoming the patriarch? Chapter 2730. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart skipped a beat. She didn't expect that today's banquet would be filled with traps. Young Lord Lan is able to become the patriarch of the Lan family at such a young age. It is clear that young Lord Lan is outstanding and is supported by the family. Congratulations. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of smiles. Her indifferent attitude and high-sounding words made it seem as if everything had nothing to do with her. As she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her cup and looked at Lan Qingyan. Young Lord Lan, congratulations. I will drink first. After drinking a cup, Bailey Hongzhuang sat down. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's inconspicuous appearance, Lan Qingyan couldn't help but frown. She also wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang lose her composure, but Bailey Hongzhuang was always so airtight. Lan Jingquang quietly looked at Yu Siqing, who was beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Yu Siqing also nodded without leaving a trace. Following this, Lan Qingyan, Lan Jingquang, and the others obviously placed their attention on Bailey Hongzhuang, Bewitching, and Mo Yunjue. They constantly chatted with the three to divert their attention, and even had the idea of getting them drunk. Patriarch, Master Kuang, and the others' actions today are a bit strange. Should we? Lan Borong couldn't help but speak up. Lan Hongtai raised his right hand slightly and stopped Lan Borong. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others are also shrewd people. Up until now, Jing Kuang and the others haven't gotten any useful information from them. We don't have to worry for now. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance has really made me look at her in a new light. Lan Hongtai's eyes were filled with admiration and satisfaction. He didn't think that this granddaughter of his who had been wandering outside could rely on herself to grow up to be so outstanding. Lan Borong smiled and nodded. Indeed, young Palace Master Bailey's experience in dealing with people is amazing. After 3 rounds of wine, Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks were flushed pink. At this moment, Yu Siqing raised her cup to Bailey Hongzhuang and said, Young Palace Master Bailey, let me toast you. Looking at the 2 wine cups in Yu Siqing's hands, Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly and said, Master Yu is a renowned poison master. I really don't dare to drink the wine that you are offering. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere of the entire banquet instantly froze. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Yu Siqing, but the smile on Yu Siqing's face did not diminish. If young Palace Master Bailey is afraid, then I will drink this cup of wine. As she spoke, Yu Siqing drained the wine in Bailey Hongzhuang's cup in one gulp, her expression carefree and natural. In comparison, Bailey Hongzhuang seemed narrow-minded. Young Palace Master Bailey, then you should drink this cup. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. How would I know if Master Yu would poison his own cup, and then give it to me? Yu Siqing's expression changed a little. She said, My actions are enough to show my sincerity. However, your attitude is still a little too petty. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. I have no choice. I have seen too many treacherous people in this world, and I really have to guard against them. I hope that Master Yu will be magnanimous and not hold it against me. Bewitching and Mo Yunjue were also staring at Yu Siqing. They didn't know which cup of wine was poison, but since Bailey Hongzhuang had said such words, she must have her reasons. Chapter 2731. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were not polite at all. It was obvious that she had categorized Yu Siqing as a treacherous person. As a result, Yu Siqing's expression turned ugly. Lan Jingquang and the rest looked at Bailey Hongzhuang without a trace of nervousness. Yu Siqing's poisoning methods were not so simple. They were confident that Bailey Hongzhuang would not discover anything. Since you don't trust me, I will drink it. Yu Siqing's expression was displeased, and her tone was colder than before. In the next moment, Yu Siqing downed the wine in one gulp. She turned the wine cup around and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Young Palace Master Bailey, you should be relieved now, right? Yu Siqing then filled the wine cup to the brim and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. You should drink this cup of wine. Otherwise, I will really be angry. At this moment, Lan Jingquang's voice rang out. Young Palace Master Bailey, Master Yu had wronged you because of his own selfish desires. Now that he has apologized, it will not be good if you continue to refuse to give him face. Indeed, it is not easy for someone of my great aunt's status to do this. You should drink this cup of wine. Lan Qingyan added. Lan Hongtai couldn't help but frown when he saw this. Family head, could there be something wrong with this wine? Lan Borong's expression was tense. He also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yishuan. At the beginning, they had already made a huge mistake. Now they couldn't let anything happen to Bailey Hongzhuang under their noses. Drinking wine is a hobby. If young Palace Master Bailey does not want to drink, why are you forcing him? Lan Hongtai's voice rang out slowly, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Everyone looked at each other. Family head rarely meddled in matters, but now he had taken the initiative to speak up for Bailey Hongzhuang. It was really rare. It was just a few simple words, but it made Lan Jingquang and the others want to kill Bailey Hongzhuang even more. It would have been fine if the family head hadn't said anything, but now, his words seemed to be protecting Bailey Hongzhuang. This was different. Patriarch, we just want to get closer to young Palace Master Bailey. Is that not allowed? Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Hongtai unhappily with a sinister look. Even if the person in front of him was his father, he still didn't show any courtesy. In fact, the little bit of kinship between him and Lan Hongtai had long since disappeared, due to their mutual dislike over the years. Lan Hongtai frowned. Lan Jingquang was getting more and more arrogant. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "It's just a cup of wine. Why do we have to make the atmosphere so tense?" In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly picked up Yu Siqing's empty wine cup and poured the wine from her pot into it. She then held the cup in front of Yu Siqing. "Master Yu, as long as you drink this cup of wine, I will drink the entire pot of wine as an apology. How about that?" Yu Siqing, who originally had a look of dissatisfaction, heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and her pupils couldn't help but shrink, her heart full of shock. How could this be? Bailey Hongzhuang had seen through her tricks. Chapter 2732. As insiders, Lan Jingquang and the others' expressions changed. They couldn't help but wonder how Bailey Hongzhuang had found out about the problem. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled at Yu Siqing and said, "Master Yu, what do you think of my suggestion?" Yu Siqing's expression gradually turned cold. Looking at the smiling face before her, she suddenly felt that this young woman was very scary. It was too shocking that she could be so perceptive at such a young age. Even Yu Siqing couldn't have been so perceptive at such a young age. "It's fine if you don't want to accept my sincerity, but why did you make me drink so much wine?" Yu Siqing's face was filled with rage. She reached out and knocked the wine cup in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand to the ground. She clearly didn't want to talk to Bailey Hongzhuang any longer. The transparent wine spilled on the ground like ordinary wine, and there was no problem with it. Seeing this, Lan Jingquang and the others couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although their plan had failed, at least they hadn't been exposed. Speaking of which, poisoning Bailey Hongzhuang really wasn't a simple matter. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation had reached level 9 of the Blue Realm, she was very observant. Even the slightest movement would be noticed by Bailey Hongzhuang. As a result, they had finally chosen this method of poisoning. Logically speaking, no one should have discovered it. But Bailey Hongzhuang had done it. They couldn't understand if it was all a coincidence, or if Bailey Hongzhuang really knew about it. Lan Hongtai, Bewitching, and Mo Yunjue were all puzzled when they saw this scene. From Yu Siqing's attitude, they could tell that there was something wrong with the wine. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so angry. But there was clearly nothing wrong with the wine spilled on the ground. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly laughed. "Haha, Master Yu is indeed the best in the art of medicine and poison. His method of poisoning is also far beyond that of an ordinary person. You must be very unhappy that I exposed your true colors in front of everyone last time, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Yu Siqing from the corner of her eyes. This method was not very clever, but it was not simple either. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Yu Siqing said with a cold face. Lan Jingquang looked at Di Beichun and Mo Yunju and said, "Young Palace Master Bailey must have drunk too much, so he's talking nonsense. Why don't you send him back to rest first?" Master Kuang, won't we understand after listening to Hong Zhuang's explanation whether this is a real discovery or a drunken ramble? Bewitching raised his eyebrows slightly, and a faint smile appeared on his handsome face. However, this smile could not help but reveal a hint of coldness. Moreover, if this is really a drunken ramble, we should let Hong Zhuang apologize to Master Yu. We can't just malign her like this. Hearing her words, Lan Jingquang and the other insiders' faces became very ugly. From Bailey Hongzhuang's confident expression, they already had a bad premonition. Master Yu, shall I demonstrate for you? Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles, completely ignoring Yu Siqing's ashen and ugly expression. She first poured a portion of Yu Siqing's wine into a wine cup, then poured her own wine into the same cup. Chapter 2733. Sizzle sizzle. White bubbles suddenly rose from the wine on the floor. The corrosive power of the bubbles was horrifying. Seeing this, everyone's expressions changed. Yu Siqing's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. They had been discovered. Bailey Hongzhuang had really seen through everything. Bewitching and Mo Yunjua's faces were ashen. Their eyes were burning with rage, ready to spew out at any moment. Master Yu, Master Kuang, shouldn't you give us an explanation for this? Bewitching was the first to question them. His purple realm aura was instantly revealed. He had already guessed that Lan Jingquang and the rest had not invited them to the banquet just to celebrate. Now it looked like they were taking advantage of this opportunity to take Bailey Hongzhuang's life. If Bailey Hongzhuang had not seen through everything, she would have died on the spot if she had drunk the wine when everyone had allowed her to. Lan Hongtai's expression was extremely ugly. He pointed his right hand at Lan Jingquang, his body trembling with anger. Speak. What did you do? The revelation of the matter had completely exceeded Lan Jingquang and the rest's expectations. This flawless plan had been completely exposed to everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have been assisted by the gods. It was as if she had already seen through everything. It was too terrifying. At this moment, Lan Hongtai even suspected that they had Lan Hongtai's spies here. Otherwise, Bailey Hongzhuang would not have seen through everything so easily. But now was not the time to think about this. I didn't do anything. Lan Jingquang's face was full of innocence. I didn't know about this at all. At the same time, Lan Jingquang couldn't help but look at Lan Kaiqing and the rest. Lan Kaiqing and the rest immediately understood and said, Master, you must be holding a grudge against young Palace Lord Bailey for exposing us previously. We didn't know at all. At this moment, Lan Qingyan was also dumbfounded. Originally, she wanted to take this opportunity to completely get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang, this eyesore. She did not expect that they would be implicated instead. It would be fine if Bailey Hongzhuang was dead, but Bailey Hongzhuang was still fine. Great Aunt, didn't you say that you've thought it through? Why would he do such a thing again? I'm so disappointed in you. Lan Qingyan naturally knew that she absolutely could not be involved in this matter at this time. The best scapegoat was Yu Siqing. In an instant, Yu Siqing became the target of everyone's criticism. Yu Siqing looked at Lan Jingquang and the others in shock. She didn't think that they would push all the blame onto her and cast all the blame on themselves. So it was all Master Yu's doing? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled as she looked mockingly at Yu Siqing. Master Yu really hates me to the core. But such a small trick might be able to kill someone else, but in front of me, it's just child's play. This taunt was a harsh slap to Yu Siqing's face. She was known as the best in the art of medicine and poison, but now she was being called child's play by a little girl who had not even grown out her hair. Even though Lan Jingquang and the rest had immediately denied any involvement, everyone present was discerning enough to notice that Lan Jingquang and Yu Siqing had been very close recently. Chapter 2734. Bailey Hongzhuang had already seen through all of this. Lan Jingquang just couldn't hold himself back and wanted to get rid of her as soon as possible. However, since Lan Jingquang and the rest wanted to push all the blame away, she didn't mind. After all, everyone was well aware of this matter. Yu Siqing only felt a breath of anger in her chest. Did Lan Jingquang and the rest think that she was someone they could bully as they wished? Now that there was a problem, they pushed all the blame to her. When had she, Yusiching, ever fallen to such a state? You're heartless, I'm unrighteous. Just as Yusiching was about to explode, Lan Jingquang gave her a look filled with warning. In reality, Lan Jingquang was also extremely nervous. If Yusiching revealed all of this, it wouldn't be good for them at all. Now that the appointment ceremony was about to begin, if news spread that they wanted to poison the successor of Limitless Palace, it wouldn't be a simple matter. Lan Qingyan couldn't help but feel anxious. She had worked so hard to get to where she was now. If she failed because of this, she wouldn't be able to accept it. Chapter 2735. The banquet hall was no longer as lively as it was before. The atmosphere was dead silent. Only Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Mo Yunjue remained calm, but their eyes were filled with anger. Lan Jingquang and the rest fell silent. They could not think of a way to deal with this situation. Patriarch. At this moment, Lan Jingquang suddenly turned to look at Lan Hongtai. At the same time, Lan Kaiqing and the rest also looked at Lan Hongtai. After all, Lan Hongtai was still the patriarch of the Lan family. Seeing Lan Jingquang and the rest's actions, Lan Borong and the rest could not help but curse in their hearts. Previously, they had purposely ignored Lan Hongtai at the banquet. Now that this had happened, they were pushing all the blame onto Lan Hongtai. This was too shameless. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest also looked at Lan Hongtai. Since Lan Jingquang and the rest had left this matter to Lan Hongtai, they naturally would not mind. Lan Hongtai's eyes were cold. He had ignored his son, Lan Jingquang, all these years, and had become more and more brazen. Now he wanted to murder his granddaughter right in front of him. In the past, he had sworn that he would not let such a thing happen again. Lan Jingquang seemed to like to challenge his bottom line. Since this was the case, he would not disappoint Lan Jingquang. Young Palace Master Bailey, young Lord D, young Tower Master Mo, don't worry. Since this happened in the Lan family, I will definitely give you an explanation. Lan Hongtai's expression was resolute and serious. His words were powerful and resonant. Lan Jingquang and the rest could not help but feel their hearts sink. They did not care if Yusiching was punished, but if they were implicated, then this matter would be troublesome. Lan Hongtai turned to look at Yusiching and said, Master Yu, was this really your plan? I'm sure you know the consequences of doing something like this in the Lan family. If you did this for your own selfish reasons, then I will hand you over to Wuji Palace to be dealt with. If anyone from the Lan family conspired with you, as long as you say their name, I, Lan Hongtai, will not tolerate it. Lan Hongtai's sharp eyes looked directly at Yusiching, as if he could see through her thoughts. Lan Jingquang and the rest could not help but feel shocked when they heard Lan Hongtai's words. The patriarch had not dealt with family matters for a long time, so much so that they had almost forgotten that he had always been so daring. In an instant, everyone's gaze was on Yusiching. Her answer was extremely important. Lan Jingquang glared at Yusiching. The warning in his eyes was obvious. If Yusiching dared to say the name of any one of them present, it would be a terrible thing. Yusiching's feelings were extremely complicated when she noticed Lan Jingquang's crazy gaze. At such a time, regardless of whether she said anything or not, she would definitely be implicated in this matter. Especially facing Lan Jingquang, her heart was filled with anger. She was clearly helping Lan Jingquang, but now she was the one who got herself into trouble. Lan Hongtai actually handed her over to Limitless Palace. This was something she had never thought would happen. Chapter 2736. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Lan Jingquang's face couldn't help but darken a bit. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes that were hard to hide. This damn girl. Lan Qingyan couldn't help but panic. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't slander us. I'm slandering you? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Ever since I came to the Lan family, you first wronged me, then poisoned me, and now you're saying I'm slandering you. This is truly a family full of good and bad words. Qingyan, shut your mouth. Lan Jingquang angrily rebuked. Now that they were implicated, it was already troublesome. Lan Qingyan had to undergo the coronation ceremony tomorrow. If they failed at this time, they might not have a chance to start all over again in the future. After all, repeated failures were enough to cause the clan members to lose confidence in Lan Qingyan. Lan Qingyan couldn't help but be startled by Lan Jinquang's shout. She jumped in fright and could only obediently shut her mouth. "Auntie, go ahead," Lan Jinquang said slowly. Compared to the previous threat and nervousness, Lan Jinquang's gaze was now filled with indifference and desperation. Seeing Lan Jinquang like this, fear rose in Yu Siqing's heart. Thinking back to when he plotted against Lan Yunxiao's family, she personally witnessed Lan Jinquang's cruelty and viciousness. This guy was born to be a vicious wolf. Once he bore a grudge against you, he could rush out and bite you at any time. If Lan Jinquang and the others were implicated, she might be able to vent her anger, but her situation would be even worse. On the contrary, if she took responsibility for this matter, Lan Jinquang would think of a way to save her. After weighing the pros and cons, Yu Siqing nodded, and a resolute expression appeared on her face. "That's right. This matter was done by me alone. No one else knows. You're just a silly girl. Yet you dare to humiliate me in front of everyone. If I don't teach you a lesson, how can I feel good?" Hearing this, Lan Jinquang's people couldn't help but sigh in relief. As long as they weren't implicated, it was fine. Otherwise, if the patriarch used this as an excuse to deal with them, it would definitely not be a difficult matter. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "If you're the one who did this, did you arrange this seat?" Lan Kaiqing and the others were stunned. Originally, it was just to make it easier to poison Bailey Hongzhuang, but now it seemed that there were flaws everywhere. "I'm Master Kuang's aunt. I asked them to do this, and they're just doing me a favor. How normal is that?" Since she had decided to shoulder the responsibility, Yu Siqing no longer had any qualms about speaking. She just took all the responsibility on herself. This time, she had lost to Bailey Hongzhuang, but in the future, she would never let Bailey Hongzhuang get away so easily. Losing at the hands of a younger generation was an unspeakable humiliation to Yu Siqing. "I didn't expect Aunt to have such thoughts, so I helped you. Speaking of which, it's hard for me to absolve myself from the blame. Young Palace Master Bailey, I apologize." Lan Jinquang bowed to Bailey Hongzhuang. His attitude was sincere, but his eyes were filled with regret. Retreating in order to advance. Chapter 2737. Now that things had developed to this point, anyone with a discerning eye already knew the truth. However, Yu Siqing had shouldered all the blame and Bailey Hongzhuang did not have any evidence against Lan Jinquang and the rest. Hence, it was not appropriate for them to continue making a fuss. After all, they were originally in the right, but making a fuss now would become rude. "Since that's the case, Lan family head, why don't you leave Yu Siqing to us?" Bailey Hongzhuang ignored Lan Jinquang and the rest, and looked directly at Lan Hongtai. "Family head, Master Yu is my aunt and the in-laws of the Lan family. Although her actions were impulsive and reckless, it would be inappropriate to hand her over to Limitless Palace like this." Lan Jinquang hurriedly said. He could not let Bailey Hongzhuang take Yu Siqing away like this. Otherwise, the situation would develop beyond his expectations. "That's right, family head. Such actions will definitely disappoint the Lan family." Lan Kaiqing and the rest echoed. However, Lan Hongtai completely ignored them. "Didn't you hear what I said just now? Since Yu Siqing did this herself, she naturally has to bear the consequences. I didn't blame the Yu clan for implicating my Lan clan because of your own recklessness. Don't tell me that all of you have forgotten that you are from the Lan clan." When he said this, Lan Kaiqing and the rest shuddered. They did not expect the family head's attitude to be so resolute. "There's no need to say anything more. Yu Siqing will be handed over to Limitless Palace. If anyone has any objections, then leave the Lan family immediately." Silence reigned. Everyone looked at Lan Hongtai in shock. Lan Hongtai had completely disregarded the friendship between them and the Yu clan. Yu Siqing's expression was also extremely ugly. She knew very well that Lan Hongtai, this old fellow, already hated her to the core. Now that he had such an opportunity, it was not strange for him to treat her this way. After Lan Hongtai finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves and left. It was obvious that this banquet had made him extremely unhappy. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the ashen-faced Yu Xiqing and said with a smile, "Master Yu, no one can protect you now." Yu Xiqing's expression was cold, and her voice was even more gloomy. "Bailey Hongzhuang, do you think that I, the dignified Yu Xiqing, will be controlled by you?" Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly when she heard that. She walked over to Yu Xiqing and said with a smile, "Of course not. Master Yu's medical and poison skills are exceptional, and your skills are not weak either. I do understand this point, but this is the Lan family. The Lan family head has already promised me that he will hand you over to my limitless palace. I believe that while I'm in the Lan family, Master Kuang and the rest of you will help me look after her, right?" Changing the topic, Bailey Hongzhuang laughed wildly at Lan Jing. Lan Jingquang's expression changed. He wanted to save Yu Xiqing tonight, but he didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so smart. This way, if Yu Xiqing left today, the responsibility would fall on their heads. Unfortunately, he was now riding a tiger and could not back down. The family head's faction was not just for show. If he refused, it would be even worse. Young Palace Master Bailey is right. During this period, we will definitely look after Yu Xiqing and not let her leave. Chapter 2738. I have a pill here that can temporarily seal a cultivator's cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a pill from her Qiankuan bag and looked at Yu Xiqing playfully. She originally thought that things would be very troublesome when the real battle started tomorrow. She didn't expect that Lan Jingquang and the rest would give her a good opportunity to subdue Yu Xiqing today. "You stinky girl, stop dreaming." Yu Xiqing was furious. She had lived for so long and had never been manipulated by a silly girl like this. The purple realm aura in her body instantly exploded, as if she was going to use martial arts. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was not anxious at all. "Master Kuang, I need your help with this matter. I've long heard that Master Kuang's martial arts are unparalleled. Since you're apologetic towards me, I'm sure you won't mind helping me with such a small matter, right?" Looking at the smiling face in front of him, Lan Jingquang's heart was burning with anger. Such a young girl was actually able to judge the situation to this extent. It was terrifying. If Bailey Hongzhuang were to become the palace master of Wuji Palace in the future, then Wuji Palace's status would be even higher than it was now. In comparison, Lan Qingyan, who was completely at a loss, could not be compared. Bewitching and Mo Yunju aside in their hearts. Ever since coming to the Lan family, Bailey Hongzhuang had been advancing step by step. It seemed as if she had stepped into one trap after another, but in reality, she had already turned everything into what she needed. Lan Jingquang gritted his teeth and helped Bailey Hongzhuang complete this task. Although Yu Xiqing struggled, her cultivation was not as strong as Lan Jingquang's and could only be subdued. Looking at Yu Xiqing's embarrassed and angry look, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of joy in her heart. Come to think of it, in all these years, Yu Xiqing had never been so humiliated. However, this was only the beginning of the humiliation. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang walked in front of Yu Xiqing and, with lightning speed, slapped the latter across the face. Slap! Her voice was loud and clear. Everyone in the banquet hall couldn't help but stare blankly. Nobody thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would do such a thing. Bailey Hongzhuang's slap was extremely vicious. Yu Xiqing's face quickly swelled up, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. There were 2 teeth mixed in with the blood. Yu Xiqing glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. "You damned girl." Without waiting for Yu Xiqing to finish, Bailey Hongzhuang gave her another slap. Slap! Slap, 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 slap. In the blink of an eye, Yu Xiqing's face's swelled up like a pig's head. "Compared to your attempt to kill me by poisoning me, these few slaps of mine are nothing. Don't think that you're so great just because of your previous status. The Yu clan is just a dog in the water, and you're just the bigger one." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a sinister smile. She turned to look at Lan Jingquang and the others whose faces were as black as the bottom of a pot. "Master Kuang, I hope to see Yu Xiqing sitting at the side during tomorrow's ceremony. If I don't see her, I'll be worried. If it affected young Lord Lan's conferring ceremony, because of this, That would not be too good. Chapter 2739. After saying all this, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a polite smile and left with Bewitching and embark. Her posture was confident, and her footsteps were light. It was obvious that she was in a good mood. However, Lan Jingquang and the rest looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's departing figure with hatred. Threat. Bailey Hongzhuang's last words were clearly a threat. The people from Limitless Palace would be arriving tonight. This was news that they had never received before. This meant that this matter could no longer be changed according to their wishes. Once Limitless Palace's influence was involved, the entire matter would become a lot more complicated. So, no matter what, they could not let Yu Xiqing go. Because they could not give Limitless Palace an explanation. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were also very clear. If she did not see Yu Xiqing tomorrow, then if there were any problems at Lan Qingyan's coronation ceremony, then they would have to think about it themselves. After Bailey Hongzhuang left, Yu Xiqing could not help but angrily look at Lan Jingquang. She had lived for so many years, and had never been so humiliated. It was really infuriating. Lan Jingquang, this is what you did. Because her face was completely swollen, and she was missing a tooth. Yu Xiqing's mouth was leaking air. Even her words were hard to hear clearly. She had suffered such humiliation in order to protect Lan Jingquang and the rest. The effect of Bailey Hongzhuang's stand was very powerful. Right now, she couldn't use the power in her body at all. She had really become a person without the strength to truss a chicken. What do you plan to do now? If you really hand me over to Limitless Palace, I will not let you go. Yu Xiqing's eyes were extremely vicious. Bailey Hongzhuang's methods were so ruthless. She even dared to treat her like this in front of Lan Jingquang and the rest. Once she landed in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, her fate would be even more miserable. Lan Jingquang's face was very ugly. Even he did not know how to deal with this situation. Aunt, you know the situation now. The patriarch has already made a decision. If we let you go tonight, we will not be able to explain it to anyone. Why don't you wait for a while, and wait for Qingyan to take the patriarch's seat? Then there will be a chance. At that time, we will be able to negotiate with Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Jingquang frowned. However, Lan Jingquang's words had completely ignited Yu Xiqing's anger. If the negotiation is unsuccessful, you will hand me over? Don't worry, no matter what, we will definitely protect you. Lan Jingquang quickly. He didn't want to anger Yu Xiqing at a time like this. In fact, Yu Xiqing knew too many of his secrets. Hearing that, Yu Xiqing's complexion became a little better. However, no expression could be seen on her ugly face. Use's eyes, Yu Xiqing, eyes. Yu Xiqing's eyes flashed with an ominous light. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang didn't die, her anger wouldn't disappear. Since they did not succeed in the dark today, they might as well do it openly. Once Bailey Hongzhuang was dead, all the problems would be solved. A dead successor, even if Limitless Palace was angered, it would be within a certain range. They would not launch a large-scale attack. Chapter 2740. Father, Great Aunt is right. Why don't we just kill Bailey Hongzhuang and end it all? Lan Qingyan looked at Lan Jingquang expectantly. Her eyes were filled with hatred. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance today made her deeply feel how difficult it was to deal with her. She felt that if Bailey Hongzhuang continued to develop like this, it would be very disadvantageous to her situation. Moreover, it had been a long time since her grandfather interfered with the family's affairs. But today he stepped in for Bailey Hongzhuang. This was very strange. She was really unwilling to take any risks. Lan Jingquang thought for a moment, then shook his head. This matter is not as simple as you think. Not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, Bewitching and embark's strength, cannot be underestimated. There are only a few experts above the Purple Realm in the entire Lan family. If we fail, then Qingyan's conferring ceremony tomorrow will not be able to proceed. We cannot take this risk. Seeing the displeasure and anger in Yu Xiqing's eyes, Lan Jingquang quickly explained. Moreover, the people from Limitless Palace will arrive in Blue Sun City tonight. None of us know if they have arrived yet. No matter how much we hate Bailey Hongzhuang, we cannot completely ignore the Lan family's interests. Going against Limitless Palace directly, and with a valid reason, was extremely disadvantageous to the Lan family. After knowing that this matter could affect her conferring ceremony, Lan Qingyan did not insist anymore. She quickly said, "Then let's wait until after the conferring ceremony. There will definitely be a chance to save Great Aunt. Bailey Hongzhuang might just be scaring you. Until now, none of us have heard that the people from Limitless Palace are coming." Yu Xiqing was very unwilling. She did not want to become a prisoner just like this. "Master Yu, I'm afraid the situation is not that simple. Who knows, after what happened at the lunch banquet, she might have already informed Limitless Palace. This is also very possible," Lan Kaiqing said. In the end, Lan Jingquang and the rest could only choose to endure. They could only hope that tomorrow's conferring ceremony could be completed safely. Even if Yu Xiqing was extremely dissatisfied, there was nothing she could do. In fact, without any battle power, she could only be trampled on. The next day, the sky was clear and the sun shone brightly. This day was a day of extraordinary significance to the entire Blue Sun City. This was because the new patriarch was about to ascend to the throne, and they would be led to a better future under the leadership of the new patriarch. Central Square. This was the largest plaza in the entire Blue Sun City. It was also the plaza where every new patriarch would hold the conferring ceremony. Most of the people who lived in Blue Sun City were the Lan clan's branch disciples, and their family members from the third generation and above. The direct descendants and the branch disciples within the third generation lived in the Lan clan's mansion. However, the entire Blue Sun City was filled with members of the Lan family. This point was indisputable. In the past, there would still be some outsiders in Blue Sun City. However, when they were preparing for the conferring ceremony, the Lan family had already sent these outsiders out. After all, this was an internal matter of the Lan family, and they didn't like outsiders. Of course, with Lan Yunxiao's group's methods, such a simple expulsion was meaningless to them. They still remained in Blue Sun City. For the entire night, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing didn't feel sleepy at all. Chapter 2741. As the sun gradually rose, the mood of the two was constantly changing. No matter what, they were finally back. Si Tuyen and Mu Jin's didn't disturb them. Speaking of which, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's feelings were the most complicated in the Lan family. "Bing, are you ready?" Lan Yunxiao turned around with a faint smile on his handsome face. His eyes were filled with a confident luster. Mu Lingbing nodded with a smile. "I've always been the one to go wherever you go. Today, I've been ready to return to the family. Since that's the case, let's set off." The two smiled at each other and opened the door. Their steps were relaxed and firm. Situ Yen and Mu Jin's were already prepared. When they heard Lan Yunxiao and Mu Jin's open their doors, they also opened their doors. "Father, Mother, let's go to the Central Plaza," Mu Lingbing said. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest woke up early. The Lan family had set off firecrackers the moment the sun rose. It was bustling with noise and excitement to celebrate the new family head's ascension. Tonight was a sleepless night for the entire Lan family. It was the same for them. The Lan family is really lively today. I'm sure Lan Qingyan is overjoyed. Xiao He raised her brows, her words full of sarcasm. Of course, Lan Qingyan has always liked to be the main character. Today's ceremony was prepared for her. Of course she's happy. Xiao Bai curled her lips. Actually, you're wrong. The real main character is here. Baisher smiled. I'm really looking forward to Lan Jingquang and the rest's expressions when the truth is revealed. It'll really be a bolt from the blue. Haha, that's right, that's right. Today is really a good day. The three beasties circled around Bailey Hongzhuang, looking extremely happy. They had been waiting for a good show for a long time. Just thinking about it made the beasts happy. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come out, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjua also stood up. Hongzhuang, let's get ready to head to the Central Plaza. The Lan clan's clansmen are already waiting for us. Around the Central Plaza, the Lan family has already prepared seats for us. With a faint smile on his handsome face, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes full of love and affection. But more than that, there was a determination that they both knew. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Okay. The members of the Lan family were already waiting outside the door. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two come out, they immediately bowed and led the three of them to the central square. After what happened last night, the members of the Lan family were very polite to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. They didn't dare to do anything impolite. In fact, the fact that Wuxia had tried to poison Bailey Hongzhuang had indeed shocked the members of the Lan family. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two arrived at the central plaza, they saw that there were 3 other seats beside Lan Jingquang and the rest. It was obviously prepared for them. This position was not bad and was very eye-catching in the central plaza. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two represented 3 different powers. The Lan family had to treat them well. The Lan family clansmen surrounding the central square had already covered the sky and earth. At a glance, the surroundings were densely packed with people. Chapter 2742. When I was in the Lan Manor, I already felt that the number of people in the Lan clan was not small. Now that I see the people in Lanyang City, I can't help but sigh. There are really a lot of people here. Mo Yunjue smiled as he looked at the sea of people in front of him. There were usually this many people in a sect, but they were all selected from all over the place. But in the Lan clan, it was an entire clan. Most of the branch descendants' partners are outsiders. After many generations of development, the number of people is really shocking. However, although the people living in Lanyang City also have the surname Lan, they have already left the center of power of the Lan clan. Bewitching said slowly. Aristocratic families rely on this method to develop. Otherwise, in terms of numbers, they can't be compared to sections. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile. Almost every aristocratic family had this kind of development model. However, compared to sects who were all outsiders, the branch descendants of aristocratic families were still related by blood, even if their blood ties were thin. Therefore, aristocratic families were much more united than sections. At this moment, only Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 elders, Lan Borong, and a few other elders were sitting in the center of the plaza. Lan Jingquang and the rest were obviously still preparing for the conferring ceremony, so they didn't show up. Lan Jingquang and the rest must have been angered half to death by Master yesterday. I wonder what kind of expression they will have when they see Master later. Xiaohei's eyes were full of smiles. It couldn't help but admit that Master's performance yesterday was really mighty and domineering. As a contracted beast, it was also very proud. I don't know what kind of expression Lan Jingquang and the rest had, but I saw the Yu clan leader's expression. Xiao Bai's gaze turned to the distance, only to see the Yu clan leader walking over with an unhappy face. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, with eyes full of hatred and resentment. Yesterday's incident was so big that the entire Lan clan knew about it. Naturally, the Yu clan also received the news. Yu Taotian had wanted to save Wuxia, and even went to talk to Lan Hongtai in the middle of the night. However, Lan Hongtai didn't give him any face, and directly rejected his request. Yu Taotian was about to explode from anger. He didn't even understand what kind of enmity there was between the Yu clan and Bailey Hongzhuang. After the lunch banquet incident a month ago, their Yu clan's situation in Blue Sun City had become extremely awkward. After a month, when there were finally some changes, such a thing happened again, causing the entire Yu clan to receive strange looks from the Lan clan. He was the dignified Yu clan's clan master. How could he fall to such an extent? Bailey Hongzhuang naturally noticed Yu Taotian's appearance. She couldn't help but smile mockingly. When he saw Yu Taotian again, he had already changed from the clan head of a powerful aristocratic family to an old man who lived in the Lan clan and looked at others with disdain. Life is unpredictable. How interesting. What's more, she was the one who started all of this. Yu Taotian walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His weathered and dignified face was covered with a layer of anger. Seeing is believing. Young Palace Master Bailey is indeed a dragon among men. Your way of handling matters is also extraordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly, as if she didn't hear the sarcasm in Yu Taotian's words. Clan leader, you flatter me. In terms of methods, I still have much to learn from you. Chapter 2743. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was pretending to be ignorant, Yu Taotian could no longer continue his act. Young Palace Master Bailey, Yu Siqing had offended you yesterday, but you have already taught her a lesson. No matter what, she is still a member of the Yu clan. I hope that you can let her off for the sake of the Yu clan. As for what compensation you want, just tell us. As long as it is something that the Yu clan can give, we will definitely not reject it. Yu Taotian went straight to the point. The Yu clan was now in a precarious situation, and Yu Siqing was their biggest support. If Yu Siqing were to die, then it would be extremely difficult for the Yu clan to develop again. Therefore, even if they had to pay a heavy price, they had no choice but to do it. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting arc and said, Clan Master Yu, I heard that the Yu clan had met with a calamity, and the martial skills hall had been emptied. After that, they moved to the Lan clan. I believe that these precious treasures have already entered the Lan clan's pockets. I really can't think of any other compensation that I can ask from you. After all, my life, Bailey Hongzhuang's life, is not something that can be compensated with any ordinary things. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes were shining brightly. She lifted her chin slightly, and her words were filled with mockery and arrogance. Yu Taotian, who was originally acting humble, was unable to restrain his anger after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. He could not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to say such words to humiliate him in public. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't you go overboard, Yu Taotian said angrily. His vigorous energy exploded in an instant. Bailey Hongzhuang's humiliation made him feel embarrassed. Therefore, he could no longer hold himself back. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up without the slightest bit of fear. Her imposing aura was released in an instant, her bright black phoenix eyes blooming with a sharp and intimidating light. Yu Taotian, does the Yu clan really think that I, Bailey Hongzhuang, am someone who can be bullied so easily? You failed to kill me with poison, and now you're saying such things to me. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was cold as she stared at Yu Taotian. The deep hatred in her phoenix eyes made Yu Taotian even more stunned. He had seen many juniors, and subconsciously treated Bailey Hongzhuang as an ordinary junior. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was clearly displaying the aura of a person in power. In any case, I've made a name for myself in the Shengxian continent for so many years. You're just a fledgling junior. If you don't give this old man face, it won't do you any good in the future. Yu Taotian's face was gloomy, and his words were filled with threats. No matter what, the Yu clan had disciples all over the world these few years. If he were to spread the word, it would definitely affect Limitless Palace. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly lowered her head. The golden sunlight shone on her body, and her fan-like eyelashes cast a shadow on her face, making it impossible for others to see through her thoughts. Yu Taotian thought that his words were effective, and he was rather pleased with himself. After all, a young person's background was not enough. He only needed to scare Bailey Hongzhuang a little, and she would have to surrender. However, Bailey Hongzhuang lifted her head in the next second. There was no trace of fear on her face. Who do you think you are? Why should I give you face? When she said that, everyone was shocked. The eyes of everyone in the central square fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. These words were too domineering, right? Clap clap. Chapter 2744. Yu Taotian's words were completely unreasonable. If it was a sincere request, it would have been fine. However, this fellow had started to threaten them. The Yu clan was no longer as glorious as they used to be. Yet he dared to spout nonsense in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. What a joke! Yu Taotian's old face was flushed red. He pointed at Bailey Hongzhuang, but couldn't say a word. What about you? What about me? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with displeasure. Since you're already old, you should stay at home and rest. Don't think about standing up for others. Otherwise, you'll lose more than you gain. As soon as she finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang sat down and completely ignored Yu Taotian, who was in front of her. If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted Yu Taotian to witness today's show, she would have already taken his life back at the Yu clan. Yu Taotian stood awkwardly at the same spot, facing Bailey Hongzhuang's disregard. His face was filled with anger and embarrassment. However, he couldn't do anything extreme in such a situation. Thinking of the many gazes behind him, he felt his scalp go numb. He originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would give him some face in front of so many people. He never thought that he would embarrass himself to the extreme. Ouyang Etian followed his father, Ouyang Hung, to the central square. The Ouyang clan and the Lan clan had always been on good terms. Moreover, Ouyang Etian was highly likely to be Lan Qingyan's marriage partner. Even though there was some unhappiness during the Battle of Zhuolu, the Ouyang clan chose to forgive the Lan clan after the Lan clan apologized. Ouyang Etian had just arrived at the central square when he saw such a scene. He was shocked. Bailey Hongzhuang's current domineering attitude was even more shocking than during the Battle of Zhuolu. The Ouyang clan master, Ouyang Hing's expression also changed. He had already heard about the things between Lan Qingyan and Bailey Hongzhuang. Paper can't wrap fire. These news were no secret to him. After meeting Bailey Hongzhuang today, he realized that she was indeed extraordinary. Below the stage, in the crowd, Lan Yunxiao and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, and a faint smile appeared on their lips. I didn't expect that old man Yu Taotian would have such an embarrassing moment. Mu Lingbing's lips curled into a smile, but there was a vicious glint in her eyes. She would never forget the cold faces she saw when they knelt in front of Yu Taotian and Yu Siqing and begged them to save Hongzhuang. Yu Taotian and Yu Siqing were high and mighty. They ignored them and despised them to the extreme. Now that the tables had turned, life was truly interesting. Hongzhuang's demeanor is getting more and more impressive. Tian sighed with a smile. After Ouyang Hung and Ouyang Etian arrived, they also greeted Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. After a few compliments, Ouyang Hung and Ouyang Etian sat down. Although today's conferring ceremony was a family affair of the Lan clan, it still required a few forces to witness it. Not long after, Lan Jingquang and the others slowly walked over. The most dazzling one was Lan Qingyan. Lan Qingyan walked over like a moon surrounded by stars. Her pretty face was filled with a joyful smile. Chapter 2745. Lan Qingyan was very happy. She could feel everyone's eyes on her. Today, she was like a queen, receiving the attention of tens of thousands of people. This was the feeling she loved the most. It was as if everyone else was as insignificant as dust, and she was the only one shining brightly. Lan Jingquang was also in a good mood. He walked beside Lan Qingyan with a happy smile on his face. Lan Kaiqing, Lan Yongtai, and the other elders were also smiling. Although they weren't the ones who had ascended to the position of house head today, they were also very happy that they were going to share the glory and wealth. As the old house head, Lan Hongtai slowly walked over from the other side. Lan Borong and the other elders who followed the old house head followed behind Lan Hongtai. With a glance, one could see the situation of the Lan family's internal factions. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the people behind Lan Hongtai. If she guessed correctly, most of the elders behind Lan Hongtai were those who had supported Lan Yunxiao. Even though today was the day Lan Qingyan became the new house head, she didn't see many smiles on their faces. Following the appearance of the Lan family, the entire central square became lively in an instant. The sound of heated discussion was incessant. Young house head is really beautiful today. I heard that young house head has successfully broken through to the purple realm. With such a cultivation at such a young age, it's enough to ensure the prosperity of our Lan family for 100 years. Young house head is the successor of the Rainbow Pearl. Since young, her talent has far surpassed ordinary people. This is a gift from the heavens to our Lan family. The Lan family of Blue Sun City completely regarded Lan Qingyan as the goddess in their hearts. Ever since Lan Qingyan revealed her talent when she was young, her position in the hearts of the Lan family's disciples had never been shaken. The Rainbow Pearl was the Lan family's mystical inheritance. Anyone who possessed the Rainbow Pearl was bound to be the house head of the Lan family. This was deeply ingrained in everyone's hearts. After hearing the crowd's discussion, Lan Yunxiao and the others' gazes gradually turned cold. The hands under his sleeves gradually clenched into fists. Lan Yunxiao's gaze was fixed on Lan Jingquang on the stage. His brother was the instigator of all this. After taking everything away from his precious daughter, he was actually enjoying such respect and glory here? Mu Lingbing looked at the smiling Yu Manlan, and the hatred in her eyes deepened. This despicable and vicious woman had used such means to persecute her entire family to such a state, because she envied everything she had. She would not forgive them, and would drag them down to hell when they were basking in their glory. Behind Lan Jingquang and the others, a figure attracted everyone's attention. It was Yu Siqing. Unlike her usual high and mighty appearance, Yu Siqing appeared to be in a very sorry state today. The redness and swelling on her face had yet to subside, allowing others to clearly see the traces of her being beaten. When Lan Jingquang saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he nodded in acknowledgement. He wanted to prove to Bailey Hongzhuang that he had brought Yu Siqing here, and had never let her leave. He absolutely could not give Bailey Hongzhuang any reason to cause trouble today. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded at Lan Jing. This is the first time I've seen Yu Siqing in such a miserable state. Chapter 2746. Si Tuyen and the others, who originally didn't know how Yu Siqing had fallen to such a state, understood everything after hearing the crowd's discussion. They didn't know that such a thing had happened yesterday. That wretched Yu Siqing! Mu Jins angrily shouted. She actually dared to poison Yixuan. Her delicate and elegant face was filled with anger. Mu Jins glared at Yu Siqing, as if she wanted to tear her flesh apart. It wasn't enough that she had harmed Lan Yixuan to such a state, but now she dared to poison her. Si Tian's gaze was also extremely gloomy. The more he understood Yu Siqing, the more he realized how vicious her heart was. That woman really deserves to die. Every time he thought of how this woman had caused him to waste several decades, and made the woman he loved suffer so much, he hated that he couldn't tear her to pieces. She actually poisoned Yixuan yesterday. I didn't even know about this. Mu Lingbing's face revealed a trace of nervousness. They hadn't slept at all last night, and had stayed in the room. They didn't expect such a shocking thing to happen on the eve of the appointment ceremony. From Yu Siqing's current expression, we can see that not only did she not succeed yesterday, she was even taught a lesson by Yixuan. Lan Yunxiao comforted. Our daughter is much more powerful than us. Mu Lingbing nodded and her smile became even more brilliant. That's true. After Lan Qingyan and the others took their seats, First Elder Lan Borong recounted the many deeds of the Lan family over the years. Under Lan Hongtai's leadership, the Lan family had achieved glorious results. Immediately after, the second elder and the other elders expressed their respect and gratitude to Lan Hongtai. All of the Lan family disciples bowed deeply to Lan Hongtai. For the Lan family, Lan Hongtai had sacrificed a lot over the years. After this narration, the members of the Lan family were deeply moved. Everyone was deeply moved by the old family head's benevolence. It was all thanks to the old family head's wise leadership that they could live peacefully these years. After everything was over, Lan Hongtai slowly stood up and said, Today is the ceremony for the new patriarch of the Lan family. I am too old to continue as the patriarch. Therefore, I have decided to pass the position of patriarch to the most outstanding young man in my family. As Lan Hongtai's voice fell, Lan Qingyan stood up from her seat and slowly walked in front of Lan Hongtai. The golden sunlight shone on Lan Qingyan's body. The aqua-blue dress made of silver thread reflected the dazzling rays of light. Lan Qingyan's gorgeous face was brimming with smiles. Her entire being was incomparably bright and radiant. Lan Qingyan is the most outstanding youth of our clan. She has displayed astonishing talent since she was young. She is only 22 years old this year, but she has already become a Purple Realm expert. Lan Jingquang's face was filled with joy as he proudly introduced Lan Qingyan's results. In the end, his daughter had still fought for his honor. Next, Old Master, please hand over the Master Seal to the new patriarch, Lan Qingyan. Lan Jingquang said. For a moment, everyone's gaze fell on Lan Hongtai and Lan Qingyan. Everyone's attention was on them. Lan Qingyan slowly knelt in front of Lan Hongtai. Her hands were raised high above her head, waiting to receive the master seal that only the patriarch of the Lan family could possess. However, at this moment, an untimely voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 2747. The corners of Lan Qingyan's lips rose to the extreme. Lan Jingquang revealed a joyful smile, and Lan Kaiqing and the others couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. However, this untimely voice caused everyone's expressions to become sluggish. Almost everyone's gaze shifted to the source of the voice, wondering who would interrupt the ceremony at such a crucial moment. When the crowd saw that the person who spoke was actually Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone's expression became splendid. The originally quiet crowd instantly erupted into a huge clamor. This woman is the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace, right? What is she doing? She actually dares to disrupt the ceremony? This woman is too hateful. How important is the appointment ceremony? She's just an outsider, yet she dares to disrupt the ceremony at such a time. Why keep this kind of person here to watch the ceremony? She should have been chased out of Blue Sun City long ago. In a moment, all the spectating Lan clansmen in the central plaza glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. It was a form of disrespect for anyone to interrupt such an important ceremony. Everyone clamored for Bailey Hongzhuang to be chased out. Her actions had already destroyed the most important thing in everyone's hearts. Lan Qingyan's expression was ashen as she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her eyes were filled with an inconceivable light. She simply couldn't believe it. Did Bailey Hongzhuang eat a bear's heart or a leopard's guts? At such a crucial moment, Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to disrupt the ceremony? Lan Jingquang's expression instantly turned from sunny to gloomy. His gaze was cold as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Long ago, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any time. Thus, during the entire ceremony, he was vigilant against Bailey Hongzhuang. He even arranged for Yuxiqing to sit not far from Bailey Hongzhuang. This was to prevent Bailey Hongzhuang from finding an excuse to disrupt the ceremony. As the ceremony gradually progressed to the end, his heart also relaxed. He never thought that at such a time, Bailey Hongzhuang would actually interrupt the ceremony. How hateful! Young Palace Mistress Bailey, if you have anything to say, you can say it after the ceremony. Lan Jingquang's voice was cold and full of threat. From his gloomy face, one could see that he was forcefully suppressing his anger. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lan Hongtai stopped his actions. The master's seal was still in his hand. He didn't give it to Lan Qingyan. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, turning a deaf ear to the crowd's anger and abuse. I have some doubts about this ceremony. If I don't say it now, what's the point of waiting until the ceremony is over? After Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's clansmen couldn't help cursing Qingzhuang was shameless. Doesn't this mean that Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately wanted to destroy the ceremony? What is Bailey Hongzhuang trying to do? She actually dares to cause a ruckus at the Lan family ceremony. Could it be that Limitless Palace wants to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Lan family? Ouyang Etienne's face was filled with confusion. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions today were too shocking. No matter how things develop, we'll know when we continue watching. This Bailey Hongzhuang is a character. Chapter 2748. Yu Taotian already hated Bailey Hongzhuang to the core, and had nowhere to vent his anger. Now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang provoking the entire Lan family's dignity at this moment, he couldn't help but smile. There was a path to heaven, yet you chose to barge into hell. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was the young palace master of Limitless Palace, this was the Lan family's territory. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang was the one at a disadvantage. It seemed that the Lan family would take care of Bailey Hongzhuang without him having to do anything. At this moment, Yuxiqing was also feeling happy in her heart. Yesterday, the Lan family had chosen to hand her over to the Sun Moon Palace. But today, Bailey Hongzhuang had offended the Lan family, and the Lan family would never hand her over again. This was an excellent situation. What doubts do you have? Lan Jingquang's face was cold as he said, Young Palace Master Bailey, don't blame me for not reminding you. This is an extremely important conferring ceremony for the Lan family. If your doubts are meaningless, then don't blame the Lan family for being heartless. Lan Jingquang was extremely angry. He couldn't imagine what Bailey Hongzhuang would say. But for some reason, the bad feeling in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Therefore, he could only hope that Bailey Hongzhuang would choose to keep her mouth shut. Master Quang, don't worry. I, Bailey Hongzhuang, have always been clear about the consequences of my actions. A clear and elegant smile appeared on her gorgeous face. Compared to the former's anger, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared natural and unrestrained. Lan Hongtai's gaze also fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. If young Palace Master Bailey has any doubts, please feel free to ask. According to what Elder said earlier, the position of the Lan family's patriarch is passed down to the most outstanding young person. Is this true? Lan Hongtai nodded. That's right. If the Lan family has a more outstanding young person than Lan Qingyan, then wouldn't the next patriarch be Lan Qingyan? Once these words were spoken, everyone present looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock, wondering if they had heard wrongly. Lan Qingyan's position in the Lan family had already been deeply rooted for so many years. For Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly say such words, could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang understood the Lan family's situation better than them? This was simply a fantasy story. Lan Qingyan, who was originally extremely angry, couldn't help but laugh in her heart after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Was Bailey Hongzhuang joking at this moment? If it was about other things, she might be a little worried. However, when it came to the word outstanding, no one in the younger generation of the Lan family could compare to her. Lan Hongzhuang's to see how Lin's S to S's to Hongzhuang's S to Hongzhuang's play. Lan Hongtai also had some doubts in his heart. He didn't understand the meaning behind Bailey Hongzhuang's words at this moment. Previously, he had already asked Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang was interested in the position of the Lan family's patriarch, then he would help Bailey Hongzhuang to the patriarch's position at all costs. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say much at that time, so he assumed that the former had no intention of doing so. But now he really couldn't understand. Regardless, since Bailey Hongzhuang had done so, he didn't mind letting Bailey Hongzhuang make a scene. After all, the entire Lan family's debt to Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't something that could be compensated with this. Chapter 2749. Then, does the most capable person have the strongest strength? Bailey Hongzhuang gazed at Lan Hongtai, who was at the top of the stage. Her delicate jade-like face rippled with a faintly discernible smile. Her dark eyes were like two deep pools, attracting people's souls. The most capable person has both strength and character. Neither can be lacking. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. This one also has a question. If the chosen successor of the Lan family has an extremely bad character and plotted to murder their loved ones, how would the Lan family head choose? Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lan Qingyan's gaze was like a torch, shooting straight at Bailey Hongzhuang. This guy actually dared to say that her character was bad in front of so many people in the Lan family? Lan Jingquang's brows couldn't help but wrinkle. He didn't take Bailey Hongzhuang's previous words to heart, but the words plotting to murder their loved ones deepened the bad premonition in his heart. What was plotting to murder their loved ones? Lan Hongtai was slightly startled. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's deep black eyes, the spiritual brilliance and self-confidence within them made his heart tremble. Plotting to murder their loved ones is the most unacceptable thing in the family. The family head should take the responsibility of protecting the family and protect the interests of the family at all times. If such a thing really happened, then this person naturally can't take on the responsibility of the family head. Lan Qingyan's brows wrinkled. The unhappiness on her face was difficult to suppress. She completely didn't understand the meaning behind Bailey Hongzhuang's words. So that's how it is. The Lan family head is indeed wise. This one admires you. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of smiles as she cupped her hands towards Lan Hongtai. Seeing this, everyone was even more speechless. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang interrupted such an important ceremony just to ask 2 questions? What the hell is Bailey Hongzhuang doing? Why can't I understand? Ouyang Etien's eyes were full of puzzlement. He thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to do something great. He didn't expect that it would be such a loud thunder with little rain, which made him feel helpless. However, Ouyang Hing shook his head and said, "Don't be impatient. I'm afraid that today's appointment ceremony will be very exciting." Ouyang Etian looked at Ouyang Heng doubtfully, only to see a mysterious smile on Ouyang Heng's face. Although he was very puzzled in his heart, Ouyang Etian also knew that his father had always seen things very accurately. He was afraid that today's matter was really not simple. "Young Palace Master Bailey, have you finished asking your questions? Then our Lan family's conferring ceremony should be able to continue, right?" Lan Jingquang looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in an unfriendly manner. This girl made such a scene for no reason, but she didn't follow up. Perhaps she was purposely trying to prevent this matter from proceeding smoothly. After all, he had thought for a long time, but he could not think of any way that Bailey Hongzhuang could stop the ceremony. Just when everyone thought that this farce was over, Bailey Hongzhuang casually shook her head. "Of course not. What do you mean by that? You're continuously obstructing the ceremony. My Lan family is not to be trifled with." Lan Jingquang's face was extremely gloomy. This Bailey Hongzhuang was simply toying with him. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had an innocent expression on her face. "Master Quang, what you said is wrong. Previously, you told me that if my words were meaningless, then I would bear the consequences." Chapter 2750. Her elegant and refined face was filled with a faintly discernible elegant smile. Her contrasting black and white phoenix eyes were filled with a trace of playfulness and playfulness. The crowd below the stage could not see clearly, but Lan Jingquang and the others could see it clearly. Immediately, a breath of resentment was suppressed in their chest. If it was possible, Lan Jingquang really wanted to choke Bailey Hongzhuang to death right now. This young woman continuously challenged his bottom line and disturbed his good fortune. It was as if she was his natural nemesis. "Young Palace Master Bailey, just say what you want to say. There's no need to care about anything else." Lan Hongtai smiled and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Compared to Lan Jingquang's anger and annoyance, Lan Hongtai was extremely calm. As her grandfather, he had never done anything for Bailey Hongzhuang. Today he must protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Once he was no longer the family head, everything he did could be done according to his will. There was no need to care. Lan Qingyan looked at Lan Hongtai in disbelief. In her heart, she only wondered if the latter had really gone crazy. In such an important occasion, Lan Hongtai actually allowed Bailey Hongzhuang to cause trouble? Could it be that Lan Hongtai really believed that Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yishuan? That was why he indulged her so much? "Thank you, family head Lan." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and said, "Since I asked such a question naturally, I want to recommend a more suitable successor." Hearing this, Lan Qingyan could not help but sneered. Her dark eyes were filled with anger and ridicule. "May I know who young Palace Master Bailey wants to recommend? I didn't know that the clansmen of our Lan family had such a good relationship with Limitless Palace that they wanted you to recommend a successor." Lan Qingyan's words did not seem like much, but directly linked the person recommended by Bailey Hongzhuang to Limitless Palace. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang said that person's name, it meant that the other party was in cahoots with the outside world. "Young Master Lan, please calm down. It won't be too late to get angry after you hear who I'm talking about." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lan Qingyan with a smile that was not a smile, as if everything was in her hands. However, this made Lan Qingyan even more unhappy. "Tell me, who is this person?" Lan Qingyan confronted Bailey Hongzhuang and coldly asked. In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips suddenly opened into a dazzling smile. Her voice was loud and clear, clearly reaching the ears of everyone present. "This person is me." As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. All the doubtful and disgusted gazes instantly turned into shock. Everyone present turned to look at the fairy-like white figure on the high platform. Her beautiful face was filled with confidence and indifference. Her appearance was already so outstanding that it was impossible to ignore it, and her elegant and otherworldly temperament was even more memorable. Even though she was standing right next to Lan Qingyan and was not dressed up, she was still a peerless beauty in plain clothes. Lan Qingyan was more of a gorgeous decoration, but Bailey Hongzhuang's bones were transcendent and refined. However, at this moment, everyone was doubting if they had heard wrongly. Lan Qingyan, Lan Jingquang, and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would say such a thing during the conferment ceremony. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such great ambitions for the Lan family. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.